What if one of the greatest mysteries in human history was never hidden because it was impossible to understand, but because it was too easy to understand? Deep beneath the sands of Saqqara, a little-known corridor is said to contain carvings unlike anything found in conventional Egyptian records. Not gods, not rituals, not stories of the afterlife. Instead, they appear to describe something astonishing, a machine. Could the builders of ancient Egypt have possessed knowledge far beyond what historians currently accept? And if so, why do certain discoveries, unexplained chambers, and controversial interpretations continue to spark debate more than 4,000 years later? From a mysterious underground panel to a massive hidden void inside the Great Pyramid, this investigation follows a trail of clues that connects archaeology, engineering, acoustics, and some of the most controversial questions ever asked about the ancient world. The deeper the evidence goes, the stranger the story becomes. 40 meters beneath the ancient necropolis of Saqqara lies a corridor that has become the subject of speculation among alternative history researchers for decades. According to various claims, this passage contains a carved panel unlike traditional Egyptian religious inscriptions. The location itself is significant. Saqqara is home to the Step Pyramid Complex, one of the oldest monumental stone structures ever built. Archaeologists generally date major portions of the site to between 2800 and 3100 BCE, placing it among the earliest large-scale construction projects in human history. What makes the alleged panel unusual is not its age, but its supposed content. Rather than depicting divine ceremonies or royal achievements, some researchers argue that the carvings appear to illustrate a sequence of mechanical operations. They claim the symbols are organized in stages, almost like an instructional diagram rather than a religious text. Whether those interpretations are correct remains heavily disputed. What is not disputed is that ancient Egyptian builders achieved engineering feats that still impress modern experts. The Great Pyramid alone contains approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, with some of the largest weighing as much as 80 tons. Even today, the exact methods used to transport and position these massive stones remain a topic of active debate. Traditional explanations typically involve ramps, sledges, manpower, and careful planning. Yet no single model has answered every question to everyone's satisfaction. This uncertainty has created fertile ground for alternative theories. Among the most controversial is the idea that the mysterious Saqqara panel may preserve knowledge of a forgotten technology. Supporters believe the carvings describe a system based on pressure, vibration, or sound. Critics argue that such interpretations stretch the evidence far beyond what the symbols can actually support. But the debate becomes even more intriguing when another discovery enters the picture: a hidden chamber deep inside the Great Pyramid itself. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project announced one of the most important discoveries inside the Great Pyramid in modern times: a large hidden void above the Grand Gallery. The discovery was made using muon tomography, a technique that tracks cosmic particles as they pass through stone. When these particles move through solid rock, they behave differently than when they pass through empty space. By studying those differences, researchers can detect hidden chambers without drilling into the monument. The void was estimated to be roughly 30 meters long. Its exact purpose remains unknown. That alone is enough to raise questions. The Great Pyramid is not a random pile of stone. Its internal passages were designed with extreme precision. So when a major empty space is found above one of the most complex corridors in the structure, it is difficult to dismiss it as meaningless. Mainstream researchers have been careful. They have not claimed the void is a secret room, a machine chamber, or a lost archive. Officially, its function is still undetermined. But for those studying the alleged Saqqara panel, the discovery became explosive. They argue that the hidden void resembles the kind of internal chamber described in the controversial carvings: long, narrow, carefully proportioned, and positioned in relation to the pyramid's central structure. To them, this is not coincidence. It is a possible link between an inscription at Saqqara and a real architectural feature inside the Great Pyramid. Skeptics disagree. They point out that without direct access to the void, no one can confirm what it contains. It may be a relieving chamber, a structural gap, or an unfinished space. Ancient builders often created hidden voids to reduce weight and manage pressure inside large stone monuments. Still, the mystery remains powerful because the void has not been entered. No living person has walked inside it. No camera has fully explored it. No direct archaeological excavation has revealed its walls, floor, ceiling, or contents. So the question remains open. Was the void simply part of the pyramid's structural design? Or could it preserve evidence of a forgotten engineering system that later generations no longer understood? The answer may depend on whether ancient Egyptian technology was only what the textbooks describe, or whether some parts of that knowledge were lost, misread, or deliberately buried beneath layers of religious interpretation. The heart of the controversy lies in one simple question. What exactly do the symbols on the alleged Saqqara panel represent? Conventional Egyptology generally interprets ancient inscriptions through religious, cultural, and linguistic contexts. Throughout Egypt, images that appear mechanical to modern eyes are often understood as symbolic representations of gods, cosmic forces, or sacred rituals. However, alternative researchers argue that this particular panel should be read differently. According to their interpretation, the carvings form a sequential process rather than a ceremonial scene. Each section appears to represent a stage in a larger operation. Instead of describing divine actions, they claim the symbols describe functions. The first section allegedly depicts a device associated with compression. The second appears to show an enclosed chamber containing multiple vertical elements. The third illustrates the transfer of energy toward a stone block. The fourth presents what looks like a detailed cross-sectional view of the chamber itself. To supporters of the theory, this arrangement resembles an engineering diagram far more than a religious monument. What attracts attention is the repeated appearance of symbols associated with movement, force, pressure, and motion. Some researchers suggest that certain terms, traditionally translated as breath or wind, could also carry meanings related to pressure or directed force, depending on context. If that interpretation were correct, the panel would be describing a physical process rather than a spiritual one. This idea becomes even more fascinating when viewed through the lens of modern science. Today, engineers understand that sound is not merely something people hear. Sound is energy. Under controlled conditions, concentrated acoustic waves can influence physical objects. Powerful vibrations can fracture materials, create standing wave patterns, and even suspend lightweight objects in midair. Researchers have demonstrated acoustic levitation in laboratories around the world. Small particles, droplets of liquid, and tiny solid objects have been moved without direct physical contact using carefully tuned sound waves. The principle itself is real. The challenge is scale. Moving a microscopic particle is one thing. Moving a multi-ton stone block is something entirely different. Critics of the machine theory point to this gap immediately. No verified modern system has demonstrated acoustic levitation, capable of lifting the enormous stones used in pyramid construction. The energy requirements alone would be extraordinary. Yet, supporters counter with a different argument. They do not necessarily claim the stones were fully levitated. Instead, they suggest that vibration and pressure could have reduced friction, making massive blocks significantly easier to move. In that scenario, the goal would not be to make stones float through the air, but to decrease resistance enough that far fewer workers would be required. It is a bold idea, and whether it is brilliant insight or imaginative speculation depends entirely on one question. Did the ancient Egyptians truly understand acoustic engineering at a level history has forgotten? Every controversial theory needs an explanation for one unavoidable problem. If ancient civilizations truly possessed advanced knowledge, where did that knowledge go? Supporters of the Saqqara machine theory believe the answer lies not in what survived history, but in what disappeared from it. Ancient Egypt endured for more than 3,000 years. During that immense span of time, dynasties rose and fell, religions changed, capitals moved, and entire systems of belief were replaced. Every transition created opportunities for knowledge to be preserved, altered, or lost. One of the most dramatic examples occurred during the reign of Akhenaten. In the 14th century BCE, Akhenaten attempted to transform Egyptian religion by elevating the worship of Aten above traditional gods. The move triggered enormous political and religious upheaval. After his death, subsequent rulers reversed many of his reforms. Temples associated with his movement were dismantled, inscriptions were erased, and references to his reign were systematically removed from official records. Historians generally view this as an effort to restore traditional authority. But some alternative researchers believe the destruction may have extended beyond religious texts. They speculate that technical documents, architectural records, or specialized knowledge could have vanished during the same process. No evidence directly confirms this claim. Yet the possibility continues to fuel debate, because significant gaps do exist within portions of the surviving historical record. Centuries later, another event added to the mystery. In 391 CE, as the Roman Empire embraced Christianity, major pagan institutions in Alexandria were targeted. Among the casualties was the Serapeum, a complex often associated with the intellectual traditions linked to the famous Library of Alexandria. The destruction of ancient manuscripts has become one of history's most enduring symbols of lost knowledge. Nobody knows exactly how many works disappeared over the centuries. Mathematics, astronomy, engineering, philosophy, geography, and countless other fields may have suffered irreversible losses. Whether any texts related to advanced construction methods existed among those works remains impossible to determine. The records are gone, the authors are gone, the answers may be gone as well. Then there is Napoleon's Egyptian expedition at the end of the 18th century. The scholars accompanying the campaign produced one of the most comprehensive surveys of ancient Egypt ever assembled. Their work eventually became the monumental publication known as Description de l'Egypte, preserving drawings and observations from sites across the country. For alternative historians, these early surveys raise another question. Did those researchers document features that later became inaccessible, damaged, or forgotten? Most mainstream historians reject suggestions of hidden archives or secret discoveries. Yet the existence of unpublished notes, incomplete records, and missing historical details continues to inspire speculation. And wherever uncertainty exists, theories inevitably emerge. By themselves, these events prove nothing. But together, they create a narrative that many find difficult to ignore. A world where fragments of ancient knowledge survived, while other pieces disappeared into the shadows of history. Regardless of where one stands on the machine theory, there is a challenge that continues to fascinate engineers, archaeologists, and historians alike. How were the largest pyramid stones moved with such remarkable precision? The Great Pyramid contains approximately 2.3 million blocks. Many weigh several tons. Some of the largest granite components transported from Aswan weigh dozens of tons and were moved hundreds of kilometers before reaching Giza. The achievement is extraordinary by any standard. Mainstream explanations focus on manpower, sledges, lubrication, carefully designed transport routes, and various ramp systems. Archaeological evidence supports many aspects of these methods, and experimental archaeology has demonstrated that large stones can indeed be moved using relatively simple technologies. Yet debates continue over the exact details. What type of ramps were used? How large were they? How were the heaviest blocks positioned at great heights? How was construction organized on such a massive scale? No single answer has achieved universal agreement. This uncertainty creates room for alternative proposals. Among them is the idea that ancient builders may have employed techniques involving vibration, resonance, or controlled force to reduce the effort required for transportation. Such concepts sound radical today, but researchers studying material science know that vibration can dramatically influence friction. In modern industry, vibrating systems are routinely used to move bulk materials, separate particles, and reduce resistance within mechanical processes. The underlying physics is well understood. What remains unknown is whether ancient civilizations discovered practical applications of similar principles thousands of years ago. Supporters of the Saqqara interpretation argue that the mysterious panel may preserve precisely that kind of knowledge. They envision a system that did not eliminate labor entirely but amplified human capability through engineering. Critics remain unconvinced. They point out that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. A carved image alone cannot overturn decades of archaeological research. To change the historical consensus, researchers would need physical remains of the proposed technology, repeatable demonstrations, and clear documentation connecting the theory to actual construction practices. That evidence has not yet been found. Still, the discussion persists because the pyramids themselves continue to inspire awe. Even after centuries of study, they stand as reminders that ancient people were capable of achievements far greater than many modern observers assume. And perhaps that is the real mystery. Not whether a forgotten machine existed, but whether modern society has underestimated the ingenuity of the civilization that built one of humanity's greatest monuments. At this point, the story becomes less about individual discoveries and more about how those discoveries might fit together. On one side stands the conventional historical narrative. Ancient Egyptian builders possessed exceptional organizational skills, advanced practical engineering knowledge, and a workforce capable of executing projects on an enormous scale. Through planning, experience, and generations of accumulated expertise, they constructed monuments that continue to amaze the world. This explanation is supported by archaeological evidence and remains the dominant academic position. On the other side stands a more controversial possibility. According to alternative researchers, several seemingly unrelated mysteries may actually be connected. The alleged Saqqara panel, the hidden void above the Grand Gallery, the unanswered questions surrounding pyramid construction, the unusual references to pressure, vibration, and force found in disputed interpretations of ancient symbols. Viewed separately, each clue appears inconclusive. Viewed together, supporters argue that a pattern begins to emerge. They imagine an ancient engineering tradition that focused not merely on brute strength, but on manipulating physical forces. In this model, builders would have understood resonance, pressure dynamics, and mechanical amplification well enough to reduce the effort required to move enormous stones. Such a civilization would not necessarily look technologically advanced in the modern sense. There would be no electricity, computers, engines, or industrial machinery. Instead, its sophistication would exist in a different form. A deep understanding of natural forces and how to harness them through architecture, geometry, and mechanical design. History offers examples of knowledge being lost before. The formula for Roman concrete disappeared for centuries. Ancient Damascus steel became legendary after the original production methods vanished. Numerous engineering techniques from antiquity were forgotten and later rediscovered. If smaller technologies could disappear, some researchers ask, why not larger ones? Skeptics respond that there is an important difference. Roman concrete left physical samples. Damascus steel left surviving blades. A hypothetical pyramid machine has left no confirmed remains. That distinction matters. Without direct evidence, the machine theory remains speculation rather than established history. Yet even critics acknowledge that important discoveries continue to emerge from Egypt. Hidden chambers are still being found. New inscriptions are still being translated. Advanced scanning technologies are still revealing structures that previous generations never knew existed. The story of ancient Egypt is not finished. In many ways, it is still being written. And somewhere between accepted history and unexplored possibility lies a question that refuses to disappear. Have modern researchers already uncovered pieces of a larger puzzle without realizing how those pieces fit together? The mystery of the alleged Saqqara panel is ultimately not a story about certainty. It is a story about questions. Questions surrounding a hidden corridor. Questions surrounding a massive unexplored void inside the Great Pyramid. Questions surrounding the remarkable engineering achievements of a civilization that flourished more than 4,000 years ago. Some of the claims explored in this investigation are supported by real discoveries, such as the Scan Pyramids project and the confirmed existence of the Grand Gallery void. Others remain controversial interpretations that have yet to be verified by direct evidence. That distinction is important. Extraordinary theories should always be examined carefully, tested rigorously, and measured against the available facts. At the same time, history has repeatedly shown that curiosity drives discovery. Every major breakthrough begins with someone asking a question others were unwilling to ask. Whether the mysterious carvings represent a forgotten machine, a misunderstood symbolic text, or something entirely different, they remind us that the ancient world still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. The pyramids continue to stand exactly where they have stood for millennia, silent witnesses to a past that remains only partially understood. Perhaps future research will confirm conventional explanations. Perhaps it will reveal something unexpected. Until then, the debate continues. And somewhere beneath the sands of Egypt, hidden chambers, unexplored passages, and unanswered questions continue to challenge everything we think we know about one of the greatest civilizations in human history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this exploration into ancient mysteries, hidden discoveries, and the unanswered questions of the past, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss future investigations. There are still countless secrets buried beneath the sands of history, and together we will continue searching for the truth behind them. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop looking beyond the surface of what history tells us. For now, the debate surrounding the alleged Saqqara panel remains unresolved. But there is an important question few people discuss. What kind of evidence would actually be required to prove or disprove the theory? The answer is surprisingly straightforward. First, researchers would need unrestricted access to the original inscriptions. High-resolution scans, independent translations, and peer-reviewed analysis would allow experts from multiple disciplines to examine the carvings without relying on second-hand interpretations. Second, the hidden void above the Grand Gallery would need to be explored directly. Modern robotic technology is already capable of navigating spaces that humans cannot easily enter. A detailed survey could reveal whether the chamber contains structural features, construction elements, inscriptions, or simply empty space. Any of those outcomes would provide valuable information. Third, future discoveries would need to establish a direct connection between the inscriptions and physical evidence found at archaeological sites. That is the standard applied throughout science. A theory becomes stronger when multiple independent lines of evidence point toward the same conclusion. Without that connection, even the most fascinating hypothesis remains speculative. Yet history has a habit of surprising people. Few researchers expected hidden chambers to be detected inside the Great Pyramid using particle physics. Few imagined that satellites, laser scanning, and advanced imaging systems would revolutionize archaeology in the 21st century. Each technological breakthrough allows humanity to examine the ancient world in ways previous generations never could. What appears impossible today may become routine tomorrow. The ancient Egyptians themselves understood this principle better than most civilizations. Their monuments were built not for decades, but for millennia. Many of their structures have already outlived empires, kingdoms, and entire civilizations that came after them. Perhaps the greatest lesson hidden within the pyramids is not about machines, lost technologies, or secret chambers. Perhaps it is about patience. The stones have waited thousands of years. If answers truly exist, they may still be waiting for the right generation to uncover them.